So we're going to carry on the theme from that earlier session about the future of retail really now, and we're very much talking about things that were happening in the UK. Lots of examples there. I know David gave us that global tour as well, but now we are going to go even more global, looking at the pioneering retailers and developers from around the world and what they're doing and what can be learned from that. So leading this is Paul Norman, who's editor of CoStar. So please welcome Paul to the stage.
Thank you very much. So the title, as you can see, Future of Retail, Think Global. We're going to have a speaker first presenting to us on this subject, and then I'm going to invite up a panel, ask them some questions, and then throw it open to the floor. So without further ado, I'd like to, and he's asked me not to go on with one of a long bio, but I know there's tremendous excitement about what he's got to say. He speaks around the world on this subject. He is a retail futurist. It's Howard Saunders.
Are you going to stay there? I'll stay there. Thank you. That was a nice short intro. Otherwise, they sort of read your CV out. You know, it's kind of embarrassing. Thank you for coming, by the way, because a couple of the sessions, I felt sorry for Steph, because there was like two old ladies and a coughing dog sitting at the front row, and it was a little bit scary. But, okay, where are we heading? Well, you can see what my take on it. We're kind of living in a crazy time. Retail's certainly in flux. None of you in retail, are you? Thank God for that. So my sort of thesis is that, well, let me start by starting on a real downer. So let's start. I want you to, it works as well. I want you to imagine, I'm going to sit down for this. I want you to imagine you've been in a coma for like 4 years, 3 or 4 years, that's all. And you're just sort of coming to. And you look up and there's your partner standing over you in a haloed, like an angel. And you go, what's been going on? And she says, she says, they look down and you go, well, let me give you a little summary. You know that bloke off Celebrity Apprentice? Well, he's the president of the United States now, you see. And you go, and you know that our biggest entrepreneur, the biggest guy, the Tesla and all that, he's talking about moving to Mars. Genuinely, you say, you're having a laugh. And, it goes on, doesn't it? We've got the rise of robotics, robots everywhere. It's already happening. Here in Nagasaki, of course, we have robotic receptionists, which, of course, you don't get in any of the hotels here at all. None whatsoever. They're slightly robotic. They still ask for your credit card, the same sort of thing. But that's all happening, and every single one of you thinks your job is going to be replaced by a robot in the next 10 years. This is what people think. There's a government white paper on it at the moment. And in the world of retail, it gets worse and worse. We've got Macy's, the mighty Macy's, promising to close 150 stores. And as if that wasn't bad enough, it's like Marks and Spencer's. No! Marks and Spencer's is like Mummy. And it's like, she's really good at cooking, not so fashionable. But do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's Mummy, I don't believe it. And she's going to devastate towns. And these are the towns that she's devastating. There are many that are joining her. It's a bit crowded up here, isn't it? I'm going to wander like this. So the list goes on, endless. The high street is dying. I'm cheering you all up, aren't I? It's great, isn't it? And even food, it's now happening in restaurants. Brands that we thought were really super powerful. No one can dent Byron. The whole casual dining sector is in disarray. And look at the poor bastard. I'm allowed to say bastard. They said bastard was okay. But there's a few things they said not okay. But bastard, they said was okay. And look, he's a mighty god, isn't he? The prince of casual dining. And he's looking a little bit sickly, isn't he? The world's changing. The world's gone crazy. The world's sort of turning upside down. And I know you'd have all seen this, but one or two of you haven't. If you haven't, and you want a really good laugh about your own industry, have a look. Have a look at Dan Bell's Dead Mal series. And he breaks into Dead Mal's and moribund shopping centres and climbs his way through the sort of overhanging ivy that's grown up the escalators, and the music's still playing, and it's a fantastic laugh if you really want to have a look. So the only thing that's happening in retail, really, is the rise of, obviously, Amazon, with their stores where you can go in and steal. Just take whatever you want, and they'll deal with it later, this sort of Uberization of retail. And I'm afraid that the news gets sort of worse, really. When you look to the future, David talked about this earlier, or I think he did. We're talking about the customers coming down the line. Well, it's Gen Z. We don't need to talk about millennials. And I don't know if we've got any Gen Zs in the audience. No, because you're all in bloody bed still, aren't you? That's the truth of it. And the truth, we know that Gen Z, they like to stay in their bedrooms, don't they? They just like to live, and they're just staring at the phone all day long. And of course, what do they want? They literally have to talk to Alexa now. They say, Alexa, can you get us a pizza? With a little bit of upspeak. Can you get us a pizza? And of course, the pizza comes flying in via drone. If it doesn't this year, then it probably will next. That, I'm afraid, folks, is... I like the way I'm just sitting down and just chat along like this. I've got an hour and a half of this, by the way. I hope you guys are okay. That, I'm afraid, is the future of retail. Thank you very much. I hope I've clarified everything. However, I don't get paid for just doing those two slides. What's to blame? Look, that's my job, try and unravel this. What's to blame? There's one thing that's to blame for all this disruption, for all this chaos. Well, it's God, isn't it? It's God. Any religious amongst you? He's to blame. Now, what I mean by God, I mean this. I mean the great overlord of data. The phone. This phone, we call it the phone, the mobile, the iPhone. This little black slab of glass knows everything about us, and we're telling it everything, and it has the answer to everything. The sum of all human knowledge. You have to imagine this is an iPhone. And when you... Look, I just wanted to show you where I live, first of all. This is where I live, and it's where you live too. And stop lying and pretending you don't. You do. This is where you live. We're all desperate. You're sitting looking up here. Who's that weird homeless guy? And you're all desperate to... I wonder if there's anyone. Let's just have a quick look to see if the universe wants me. Yes, it does. Oh, no. Somebody else commented on something I commented on. You know, it's this weird world, but we all want to connect. This is where we live now. This is fundamental to what is changing retail forever. And it's as if... this is biblical, by the way. It's as if, because at exactly the same time, just after the crash, 2008, the heavens opened. This is like a biblical story. The heavens opened, the clouds parted, and we looked up, just as we're questioning what's capitalism about, and consumerism, and all the things it's terrible, it's dragged us down, and we looked up at the heavens, and the clouds parted, and God reached out, and he touched us, and he touched our little finger, and he gave us each a little black slab of glass that has the sum of all human knowledge. I know some of you are crying just at the thought. The sum of all human knowledge. You know, you ask it, what's the best bagel place in the universe? Where's the original denim company? Where's the oldest? What's the best? What's the height of that bloody actor? What's his wife? Who was he married to? It knows everything, and we are now permanently attached to it. So now there's a clue here. You look to the high street, it doesn't look quite so exciting, does it? Because we've got the sum of the whole of human knowledge at our fingerprint. And when you reach out and touch that little round button at the bottom of your iPhone, other brands are available, only one really. And you're like Adam, reaching up and touching God's finger. Now, why am I telling you all this? Well, because we want products that are endorsed by God now. You're not going. If I said to you, we want the products, not a product. If I said to you, do you want a coffee? You go, yeah. 10 years ago, you said, yeah, I'll have a coffee. Yeah, well, yeah, great. Instant, excellent. No, we want the coffee now. We're not used to. We don't want a. We don't want that. We want to know exactly where. And I have my own specific brand. I like them when they double roast it. And I do like a latte, and I don't like a little squirt of chocolate. All of that. And we've each got each of you out there has a the coffee in your, I'm guessing. Each of you has a the coffee. So once we have God's endorsement, we want the best in the world. It's really obvious. We're not going to make do with the small selection that Debenhams or House of Fraser, I'm picking on those poor sods. But, they put a nice little collection of stuff together. It was great 10 years ago. Now we want the products. The consequence is there's a revolution happening out there. So ask them. Ask Starbucks. I've done this. What is it that scares Starbucks? The mighty Starbucks, with how many thousand stores they've had, trying to sell you the... What is it worries them? Is it Costa? Is it Costa that's... Oh, let's have a sneak in Costa. See what they're... No, it's not Costa that's worrying them. It's these little artisan guys. I've got one picture from one little weird place in Detroit that I found where there was no signage, nothing. There was, it's just social media only, and you get this huge warehouse the size of this bloody hall, and one little hipster guy, and they're selling the coffee. That's what we want now. Or maybe it's Change Please coffee. It's the coffee, isn't it? At the moment, it's the coffee. We don't want Starbucks. Starbucks came along and educated us into sort of proper, authentic, great product, and we go, thanks, Starbucks, for educating us. Now we're off. We want something better now, because we want the. What is it that worries? Cadbury's? Is it Nestle? Well, no, it's not, is it? It's the small artisan guys that can give you an experience, and you go in, you hang out, you chill, you chat to them, you feel a little bit like you've fallen in love. And then you say, can I buy a little bar of chocolate? Yes, it's only $25. Excellent, because it's my little token to say that I've been, and we all want to do it. That's the future of retail, okay. And what's McDonald's biggest threat? Burger King? We're really worried. Burger King. Coming along hard on the inside. We're really terrified about Burger King. No, it's not. It's this, isn't it? Not this specifically, but the little guy, the little entrepreneur, the little innovator, the artisan guy on the edge of town. Now, this is Brooklyn. Brooklyn's where it all started. At exactly the same time as the crash, a food market called Smorgasburg. And I can go on about it for hours, and I'm only going to talk about it for another hour. Okay, but that's, look, it's a food and beverage, whatever you want to call it, revolution. It's happening. We want the now. And that's what Smorgasburg is. Look, compare it to this. Look, I can't not swear when I look at it. Yeah, standing room at the back, come in. Look. I've picked a shopping centre that's not here, so this is in Vegas. It doesn't matter where it is. It's made up shit, isn't it? That's what it is. It's made up shit, and they still think, yeah, no, we should do what we need to do. We need a chicken concert. No, we won't do KFC. No, we take the money ourselves, couldn't we? We get someone really shitty in there, and we've got Chicken Connection. That sounds good. Get Bob to draw it up. It's dog shit, isn't it? And if there's any of you out there who have centres, I know some of you have, with those made-up brands in them, stop it now, because they're dragging you down to hell. It's really obvious. Now compare that. Look, Smorgasburg, and this one market out of billions of new markets. The rise of markets since the crash is like that. I'm big on graphs. That's the rise of markets. Food halls and markets and hipster food places and the food places where you can hang out and chill and sit on the grass and maybe even allowed to have a beer. Oh, a locally brewed beer with locally made bread. Each one of these. Now listen, this is really important. I'm wearing myself out, I tell you. Each one of those brands, Smorgasburg, I'm just talking about one thing. 100 chefs battling to get in there. 100 stalls, and there's a queue of like many hundreds trying to get in because it's their showcase. It's how they can show themselves off. There's no burgers there. There's no hot dogs there. There's ramen burgers and all of that. Everything is gourmet. This is the critical thing. That each and every one of those food products at Smorgasburg is a the. Every single one, and they're all hoping this is a launch pad. The energy here is phenomenal. Locally produced stuff. So when I say street food, when people say street food, I can hear the whoosh of the eyeballs rolling back into their, because people say to me, oh, yeah, street food revolution. You know, what's next? Shut up. You've misunderstood what it's actually about. It's not about street food, so I've renamed it Sophisticasual. Look at this, I'm showing you. Look at one slide. I've got 1,000 slides of just one market. And I travel the world looking at markets, and there are thousands of markets doing this. A huge cauldron of energy, innovating, creating new stuff. None of this is burgers and hot dogs. None of it. Sophisticasual food. It's highly sophisticated. It's the same as, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but this whole sophistication thing and casualization, premiumization, casualization, the two graphs have met. It's happening with clothes. We're buying sort of intelligent fabric. I'm going off on one, aren't I? Intelligent fabrics, but it's casual clothes, isn't it? It's the same in food. We want highly sophisticated combinations, creative ingredients. We want it casual. We want to sit on the grass with it. We want a long community table with it. That's where food is going. And yet, we somehow haven't caught on in our shopping centres. And it's happening everywhere. Yes, in London, we've emulated it with Metropolitano and all of that stuff. And they have a cinema. I just wanted to show you how clever it is, because it's sophisticated. And they have a cinema, a funny little independent cinema at the back. And they showed Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe or Narnia or something, and you actually entered through a wardrobe because it's a little bit creative, and they don't have to be the corporate giant anymore with a big neon sign. It can be curated gently for us. And look, I travel and talk all this nonsense all over the world, and it's just like last year I was in Warsaw, and guess what? An ex-Eastern Bloc country, it's the same thing. I'm down on the waterfront, there's a thing called Barca, and it's part club. It's part microbrewery, and there's little shops there, and it's all super cool. And then last year I was in Auckland. I can show you, I have 1,000 of my images, all my images, of Auckland and the food markets down on the waterfront. Fantastic. Funny little homemade brands, little entrepreneurs full of energy and ideas that have been brought to market. It's fantastic. And I'm showing you 2 pictures. Look, here's another one, Ryan's Kitchen or whatever it is. It doesn't matter, but look how much fun they're having. Why? Because it's their business, their passion, they're driving, and that's what you guys have got to harness. It's not like, oh, can we change the menu and make it a bit more authentic? No, it's about actually having real people who want to bring things to market, and that's how we get the country working again. Now, compare that, am I speaking quickly enough? Compare that to the miserable sods back in Vegas. And this, I've picked another, what's it, Greek Connection or whatever it is, some shit, isn't it? Sorry, but they said I'm allowed to say shit, so I'm going to, the shit doors are open. And look, it's just horrible, isn't it? The miserable bloke who's being paid minimum wage, he hates his job, and as you approach to say, can I have some of your shit Greek food, he hates you too. And that is, I'm sorry, but that is the truth, isn't it? We know it's happening, and if you go back to your centres and you see any of these, burn them down instantly. Okay, I'll calm down a little bit. So that's the food revolution. I think I've made it clear. It's obvious. It's not about, oh, we've got to up the game. It's about harnessing the energy of all those clever millennials and Gen Zers with all those business ideas that can't come to market. We need to bring them to market. Harness that energy. Secondly, brand playgrounds. It's not experiential. It's not whatever term we want to use to describe the revolution that's happening in I can't even believe I'm saying the words non-food. Look, it's changing. Once upon a time, your grandchildren, or your great-grandchildren, my grandchildren will say, Granddad, you know what, tell us again, it's really funny, tell us again how you used to get stuff. Do you remember? Well, we used to go out in the car. Yes. We used to go in the car, and we'd drop the car off. Yes. And then we'd pick up a trolley. We'd have to put a coin to get the trolley. Did you really? Did you put it back? Well, you have to put it back at the end. But, you know, the whole story, I'm not going to bore you with it. It's ridiculous. That's how we used to get stuff. And today, thanks to God, stuff comes to us. See, that's how it works. Stuff comes to us, which means that shops have to offer us something else. And remember the funny little Gen Zer in her bedroom ordering pizza. Shut up, I'm just going to get a pizza tonight. The truth is about her or he or Zia, or whatever you want to call them, is that they're scared of missing out. This is the bit that hasn't. So yes, they're bored with going into town and wandering around House of Fraser and W.H. Smith's and all the other ones we know. Of course they are. It's hardly exciting. They've got the universe in their bedroom, in their pockets. But they are fearful of missing out, scared of missing out. FOMO, fear of missing out, is driving them. So there's a huge rise, another graph. You like graphs, don't you? Another graph for you. Huge rise in the number of events and festivals and food festivals and pop festivals and whatever festival. Huge rise. And that's all happened since this little thing came along. So let me give you some examples. The milestone for me, it was about 3 years ago, Samsung, who saw Apple doing really clever stores, thought, right, we're going to do something even cleverer. And in New York, they opened 837. And it's a venue. They don't even sell any product there. It's a showcase. They show product off. And then they have Moby's played here. And it's all interactive playground, a venue, a community venue. Yes, of course, there's VR and all the rest of it and bespoke this and that and the other. And guess what? They have the coffee. And guess where it's from? Smorgasburg. And do you know what? When you go back next year, it'll be a different one because they've got to keep on the edge. They've got to keep it being the. You can't hang on to that 25-year lease hoping the one you got is going to stay cool. So that's another whole story. And, actually, guess what? They also have a running club. They have a running because they realise they've got to be part of the community. So it's not about being a store anymore. It's about being a venue. Same with the brand new Nike in Soho, Manhattan. Purpose-built, came right out of the ground. Multi-billions, how much it cost. Let me go through. I could tell you lots of things that they're doing in there, but the best bit, the cherry on the top, is the basketball court, and it's interactive, and it shows what you did with the giant screen, and tells you cool places to play. And then you've got back to London. Dr. Martens. I thought this was genius because there's all this sort of high-tech stuff. Dr. Martens, how do they make themselves cool? This flagship, a couple of years old now, but I think it's genius. Yes, you can go and bespoke, because obviously it's the me age, isn't it? You want the special, this is the pair I have, obviously. So you can do all that. But more importantly, there's a venue for local bands, because every local band across a whole tranche of musical genres, you wore Doc Martens, DMs, that's what they wore, isn't it? The punks and the rockers and the whatever. So they've brought that in and they've made that integral to the brand. I think I've said enough about it. Brilliant. Even Dyson. It's a brand playground. You wander around, they tell you how they built the hairdryer, and they told you what they designed. And then it's like going around the science museum. You're learning about this product and why they can charge you 350 quid for a bloody hairdryer. And at the end of it, you want one. It's how it works. But best of all, playground, remember. There's a wall of dirt in little jars. And you can go for the Dyson lawn thingy. And you can go, am I? Yes, you are, you're allowed. Really? It's a soot. I know, you can actually. Can I throw it on that? Yes, you can. And just it works, doesn't it? Dyson, even Dyson. So just think about whatever product you're into, if you're a brand, whatever you're doing, there's something you can do that's interactive and engaging and a bit of fun, dare I say, if you can do it with a Dyson vacuum cleaner. So, and then, someone earlier mentioned this. Opened last week, Matches, just to prove to you what's happening out there. This is in fashion. This is high-end fashion, okay? Really high-end. And you book appointments with the app, obviously, and you turn up and you log in and it tells you what events are going on. And the whole space is a digital playground. But everything you look at, obviously all the products, it comes up, shows you videos and stuff with the designers. And the artwork. I think I've got one of them. No, I didn't check them. The artwork around the space, you do the QR code, a little bit old-fashioned tech, but you use the QR code and it shows you how the artist created the piece of art. It's a digital playground. And on the top floor, the cherry on the top, is the cafe where you can have this lovely branded little toasted sandwich, basically, little toasted sandwich. And it's free. It's free because they know if they suck you in, they can take 40k off you. That's the truth of it. It's seriously posh, this place. So that's really interesting. And then we've got the other thing that's happening on the high street. So we've got the death of mediocrity. We know the brands. They're falling away. I showed you the list earlier. It's all just falling. It's crumbling. But the ones coming through are the ones we call digital natives. These are the guys that have never had shops. And so they come with no legacy and they go, yeah, what should we do? This is Casper, brand new. We're back in New York. This is in Soho. And this is a mattress shop. Mattress. It couldn't be anything more boring. mattresses. And you wander into different worlds. I think I've got a picture. You wander into different worlds and read about the mattress and all of that stuff. And, just to add to it, they got an app for people with insomnia. So in the middle of the night when you're not sleeping, you can connect and talk to Casper. Casper, I'm not sleeping very well at the moment. And they reply to you because they're trying to build a bit of love. It didn't cost much, did it? And suddenly we think of that brand as a real progressive innovator in a very dull market. And here's Rachel. Some of you know Rachel. There's Rachel on the hamster wheel in another digital native brand called Allbirds. And is that right? Yeah, Allbirds. And it's a New Zealand sort of hybrid. Back to that whole casualization thing. Sort of natural wool hybrid sort of sneakery thing, whatever it is. And you go on the back of the... Oh. Never mind. And you know what? You get the picture and you can test them out. It's like, it doesn't take much. It's a playground. And best of all, how am I doing for time? Because I'm rattling along here. And I don't want to upset Hannah. Best of all, I just thought I'd show you this, because this is, critically, this is what's happening to retail. We're not looking for stores anymore. This is Converse, and in February this year, in fact, there's a date on there, I think, yeah. Converse, is owned by Nike, isn't it? Oh, Converse opened a club, really. They opened a one-star hotel, very clever, the one-star hotel. Where did they do it? Well, Shoreditch, obviously. And they opened this hotel for one night, and you couldn't get in. So did I go? No, I didn't. I couldn't get in for love nor money. It's for a lot younger people than me. But they were queuing round the block to go to the one-star hotel. And look, all it was a series of rooms and a breeze block bed, which is slightly more comfortable than one I had last night. Just, anyway, you know, you wander through and you learn about the products. And it's what the bit that's missing from these images, maybe from this one, is the pumping sound. The pumping sound. And you kind of wander through their space and you fall in love with the brand a little bit more than maybe you did before. And that's the future, isn't it? You've got to allow your centres to accommodate this. They don't want to sign up to a 15-year lease. They don't even want a one-week lease, but they do need... Oh, yes, before I forget, they need spaces and flexibility. Obviously, we all know that. Everyone's saying that. But before I forget, voice, which I mentioned, you know, remember Alexa, can I get that pizza? Right at the beginning. Well, think about this. This is the one that we're struggling with at the moment. Specifically if you're a FMCG brand, Alexa might be delivering what she wants to deliver. You see, because if you say you want dishwasher tablets, and I like those, you know, I don't know, made-up surf, I don't know what brand it is, but you ask for one specific brand, she's going to push you onto the one that she's getting the biggest margin on, isn't she? Obviously. And so the question is, brands are going to lose as supermarkets die, which they, on the whole, kind of are. They're certainly struggling. How are we going to know about the brands? Well, I'll tell you how. Because our town centres and our shopping centres are going to have to allow them to have little connections with us and put little funny pop-ups together and events and ideas. And it's happening all the while. We've got the Kit Kat pop-up. That's what brands need now. They need spaces where they can show off. And our shopping centres have to accommodate that. Does that make sense? Anyone still listening? No, thought not. Right, so I summarise, because I'm really quick. And if any of you got any of that, you're better than me, because I didn't hear any of it. Okay, stores are dead, aren't they? It's really obvious. The death of mediocrity, they're crumbling away. We're even seeing the good ones, the Jamie Olivers and the Byrons, disappearing because we want better than that now. It's been a platform to getting better. Stores are dead because stores store things. I don't want to wander around your damn warehouse looking at your neatly folded jeans or whatever it is, racks of product. I can get stuff. God brings me stuff. So stores are dead. The future, I've tried to make this really simple. Two things, because I could have talked about a million things today. I've picked two. One, the food. You're going to have to make it much more sophisticated and ever more casual. Those are the two graphs. That's where it is heading, I promise you. So you're going to have to accommodate that. You're going to have to start flexing leases and doing more events and bringing chefs in for special week. All of that stuff, I know it's hard. But that's what we want. And secondly, you're going to have to accommodate brands that just want to show off for short periods. Brand playgrounds. Whew. Thank you for listening. Can I just say, follow me on Twitter if you can. And if you do want to read any more nonsense about how we're heading to hell in a handcart, go to worldsgonecrazy.com. Thank you for listening. How are we doing for time? What do you want to do
Well,
with me
thank
now?
you very well. If you could stay
Shall I sit?
on the
Oh,
panel,
yeah,
that would be
fine.
tremendous.
I've got 10 minutes.
Well, I'd like to introduce, well, firstly to say that was a fascinating picture of a, I suppose, terrifying, but also exciting retail world out there, a world for people in the retail space. And fortunately, we also now have a panel of people across a range of areas that are responding to this world that Howard painted in various ways. So it'd be really interesting to talk to them about how they're doing that, with a thought about the global picture as well, I think is one of the things I've been asked to look at, and what they're seeing worldwide, which of course Howard did. So I wonder if I could introduce the panel to the stage. I'll introduce them and then I'll start asking a couple of questions before opening it up to the floor.
We're all on one sofa.
Squeeze in.
It's something
What have I done wrong?
So directly to the left we have Murray Clark here. He's the founder and CEO of the Big Box Company. Born and raised in Durban, made a huge success of his property business there. By the age of 30, Murray, I'm told you'd built a £500 million shopping centre portfolio.
Look like I'm about 45. Been in the property industry for a long time.
In 2015, you founded the Big Box Company. It's a unique retail platform, which we're going to hear about now, to help grow startups. And you're very keen on, I think, immersive, but also socially conscious development. I think we've described here. And you see entrepreneurs as the rock stars of today. I'm not sure how Johnny Rotten would feel about that, but he's not here to ask, I don't think. And so you're especially passionate about mentoring young businesses. So we'll turn to you in a minute. Next to that is Jill Dew, Investment Director of The Collective. So it's great to have someone focused on residential development and hear what they need from retail and creating Generation Z, X, Y housing, and talk to you about that going forward. Then we have Holly Hallam, who is Strategy and Marketing Director, Design LSM, particularly focused across her career on food and beverage and on food halls. So it'd be great to get your sense of what you're working on there. And then finally we have Philip Lunn, Chairman of Axiom, who's really been probably the big star of the show so far. Your particular big box there in the corner, and Eddie the Eagle, the gin bar. And, you know, Philip's been in retail property for almost 25 years, so many people here will know him. I think at Savills at one stage, then formed Lateral in 2008. But now he chairs Axiom, and that has funding secured and site works on a major out-of-town retail development. So I think a lot of people will want to know, I mean, this is the first time we've seen this for years, so what's going to make it work and what you're doing there. So I think I'll ask each of you, I think just a very specific question about what you're doing and also how it relates to some of the things that Howard said, and then a couple of broad brush questions. So Murray, I wonder if you could just talk us through what's made Big Box a success in South Africa. And I know you've said you've been spending the last year or so doing a lot of research, we were talking about it before, an analysis on how that can happen in the UK, and you think it's all about creating very bespoke developments in each area. And I wonder if you could talk to us about what you've learned.
What we do is we take stores that are not working, like Debenhams and House of Frasers, like you mentioned, and we recycle traditional old school retail and we convert them to market platforms designed for independence. So we feel that entrepreneurs are the rock stars of our generation and people that add value to the world. And basically what we're trying to do is remove commercial limitations for them. We anchor our spaces with incredible food and beverage, creative retail, co-working, health and wellness, which is really important to us, and community and events. So it's all about trying to speak to everything Howard's just spoken about and creating inspirational omni-channel environments that speak to the future of retail, but that also have connections to communities around them.
Okay, and are there differences between South Africa and the UK that spring to mind, or is it
I think
a similar
that
story?
there's a global movement moving away from old school retail, and it's about trying to look to the future and basically creating spaces that consumers emotionally connect to. And that's in South Africa, it's in the UK, and it's a global movement, and it's all about trying to understand what that is, working with independents that you talk about, companies like Curator's Coffee in London, incredible inspirational brands where you understand the story behind it. And our philosophy is to try to create systems to help them win. We feel like the retail of old is designed to fail because it doesn't provide any infrastructure or systems to help them win. If you come into a big box location, we handle all of your fit out, we save you money in the income and expense space. You're in an environment that's designed to help you win. There's mentorship programs. There's a whole bunch of layers that speak to what we think creates sustainable business in the independent space. And so we take spaces of between 2 and 10,000 square meters and we convert them into what we think the future of retail looks like.
Okay, I wonder if you could just talk us through one scheme where you've done that very quickly, an example of that.
Yeah, in Woodstock, Cape Town, we've just opened a location, and it's got about 1,500 square meters of independent F&B, creative retail, micro merchant space for offline retailers who are looking to get physical space, companies that you would normally find on platforms like Etsy. We've got health and wellness, which is really important to us. We've got an incredible co-working platform, podcast stations, meditation rooms, and we stitch that all together under a single platform. I feel like co-working in the traditional sense doesn't cater to all independents, and so our philosophy is about trying to create multi-layers which extend to what we think the future of retail looks like. And that's not just in South Africa, it's a global movement. And so if we can create a platform that speaks to everything that Howard has just mentioned, it will help landlords not try and do it themselves unsuccessfully. So we believe that social and community upliftment is massively important to creating that. It's not just about the four walls that is big box, it's about identifying critical social and community upliftment initiatives that need to be solved. And the trick is every community is different. So big box London will be different to big box New York, will be different to big box Cape Town. And it's about immersing yourself and understanding the fabric of that specific community and creating bespoke programs that speak to that audience. We're looking at Stoke-on-Trent at the moment, and you might laugh at that. But the reality is that Spode as an asset, which is one that we're looking at, has got 300 years of history where people's parents worked there, where their grandparents worked there. And in 2008, they went bankrupt. And so what we're trying to do is basically reinvigorate what was the center of commercial activity for a long time, underpinning the spirit of all of that with independence and things that make sense to the community and that basically tick the future of retail as we see it, at least.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Jill, you're obviously the collective working on the future of living, I suppose, or co-living. Could you talk us through, what I think it's all about creating community for you as well, which ties in with a lot of what Howard said. But could you also talk us through how that relates to retail and the retail you want around you?
Yeah, sure. So I wasn't sure initially why I was asked to speak on this panel. When I understand this was the retail panel, and Hannah says, there's interesting aspects that you can bring onto, for the retail community. And I think perhaps we should start by telling you guys a little bit more about what we do. So the collective is a developer, operator, and investor in the co-living space. So we create a small private space with very nice public amenities, including swimming pools, libraries, gyms, study rooms for our residents that, a lot of them fall under sort of like the millennial and Gen Z category, but not exclusively. Our flagship property is a 546-bed scheme in Old Oak. So as some of you may be from London and may know, it's like, edge of zone 2, industrial zone, there's like nothing around it. It's like 7-minute walk from the tube station. So it's well connected back to central London, but it isn't like a vibrant local community. And a lot of the developers look at this, be like, there's nothing I can do here. While we see the opportunity of creating a destination with the community we can bring here. So, we basically took it through planning, did a development for this, really the world's first large-scale ground-up co-living scheme, and it was leased up in like 4 months into 90% and 6 months into 99%, and has been constantly performing. And we have ground floor retail space that does extremely well, even though the location itself doesn't lend it to be like a typical retail location. But because we've brought the community together there, the supermarkets, the cafes, the gyms, like have sort of like a foothold to be expanding themselves into the community. But what we have seen is, like the community we have brought together is exactly what was just described, right? Like they love to have their private space in their own bedroom, but they crave that real connectivity. They crave that real community. They crave to be part of something special. So, that generation and that group of people, what can you offer them? You have to offer them, like programmings, activities, experience, and the real community, not just, like muffing once a month and trying to pretend you have a community, but something that they can truly participate. Like in our buildings, we have like ukulele club every week. We have debate clubs every Wednesday. We have brunch. We have like big Brazilian nights, and there's like 2 events on average a day in our community, and to bring together all kinds of people. And our tenants are between 20 to 60-year-old. So it's not just your Gen Z. There are people in various life stages that crave that connection. A lot of them are separated and divorced or single in their own right, but it's a big community. It's a third of London is like single person household. So
I think that's one interesting thing just to ask you. Do you think that sort of single community has a different retail demand that you can see congregating around your? Obviously, we talked about the fact that perhaps they don't need a store at all, but it's just interesting to know if you're tapping into a different kind of demand for that community.
In a way, I think that they create the experience more dynamic, because the thing is, single person crave interaction and crave connectivity to their wider sort of community. If you have someone you can always go home to, it's a different feeling versus every day you come home in your own little room and you'll be like, okay, what do I do tonight? What do I eat tonight? What do I want to,
Play the ukulele by the sounds of it.
So some of them do, but some of them go out to participate in other type of experience, right? So in terms of retail offering, we try to create a very sort of like unique F&B. Yeah. We have a subsidiary called Makeshift that does, Pop Brixton, Peckham levels, like very unique F&B concept. And it's about that kind of, sophisticated casual, it's like a lunch place of, a very interesting master chef. It is about that ethnically sourced, like piece of clothes that they cannot get in other places. So, but it is very curated, like our retail space that we have, it's like on short tenancy lengths, we don't look for security of income, but the rent per square foot is still very interesting.
Which is really interesting. It sounds like how things are blending across sectors as we look at these things that are changing. And Holly, coming to you, you mentioned you wanted to talk about F&B. Obviously, that's been a seismic change in how much space is given across the shopping centres, but they've kind of filled in. But what you're talking about is you want people to be thinking about F&B from the start.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you could talk us through how you're doing that.
Well, I think it's really important. We're working with large developers like Ryokan, looking at a 9,000 square metre food market in Canada, and I think it's really important kind of that it's thought of from the beginning. It's not just, actually we're in the last 3 years of the project and now we're going to bring along the F&B consultants to think about the food, which we get a lower lease kind of and rental yield on. It's because actually going back kind of, without being boring about all the psychology and everything, food is actually what creates a community. Sitting down and breaking bread with people is what creates energy. And it's fundamental to connection. And if we look at everything you were saying in your talk today, it's about connection and sociability. And that's what you can't get on God, is the connection. And so that's what people are craving. And that's what food brings to a store or to a centre, is that connection. And I think often it's left to the last minute, or it's shoved in a corner down at the bottom, and it's not really thought about. When actually it is kind of almost the heart of something. And if you get it right, then you get multiple visits per day from one consumer, because they'll come for their morning coffee. they'll come back for their lunch. And if you get it really right with the interaction and the activity and the sociability, they'll come back for a date night with their friends, or they'll come back with their husband or wife or partner, whoever. So I think it's really important to think about it. And it's not just food, it's the activation of that space. So it's the music, it's the poetry reading, or during the day, the face painting for the mums to gather with the toddlers. It's how that space can make a whole centre be really vibrant and bring in different patterns of footfall. And
just to pick up on something, I mean, a couple of words Howard said a few times. Well, one of them, God. The other one, the. Good band, that. But I was just going to ask you, Holly, quickly, how much are you thinking about that in terms of F&B? Is that at the forefront of your mind, accommodating that change?
Yeah, and I think it's really difficult to say, because we work with kind of numerous clients and large land kind of developers and where they have to think about the commerciality, and we can't get away from that. But what you do have to think about is how can you be a nurturing landlord? Like, it's really interesting to hear you say about the mentoring program, because it's about the flexibility you can give in leases, because all the exciting people are the entrepreneurial, new to market, kind of street food people, where the authenticity and the passion of their food is coming through from. It's not from, and we all love bills and we all love all of the other things, but it's not from a 10-year lease on a menu that doesn't really change apart from maybe 4 times a year. There's no authenticity and passion in that. And so it's about how can you nurture those people that aren't traditionally made for going into big spaces? Can you create smaller spaces on more flexible leases? And what do you need to do as a landlord to be responsible to help them work and help them succeed, which will hopefully stop the churn and create footfall as well.
Okay, now I'll just quickly come to Philip as well before asking you about what you're up to before opening up to Howard and talking to everyone. Obviously, you're here talking about a major development, which is great news. I think many people here thought there would never be another sort of major out-of-town shopping centre built in the country. So I wondered if you could just talk about which international retail destinations are influencing you, and what are you doing that you're learning from it, and how's it going to work this time with what you're doing?
I don't know whether I'm using this microphone or this one, but look, Axiom is an absolutely awesome project, and we're blessed to have a fantastic site in the heart of the UK, on the M62, directly between Hull and Manchester, just outside of Leeds. We started out with 106 acres. We had an incredibly supportive local authority who've just encouraged us to try and innovate and try and bring something which is going to be, authentic and exciting for the local communities. We've travelled all over the world to looking at unique retail destinations, new retail destinations. I don't know how many people in this room have been to Dubai, but when you go and see what's happened in Dubai, just over the last 10 years, having seen originally Mall of the Emirates with the ski slope, then Dubai Mall came along, introduced the dancing fountains. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the dancing fountains. I was there 2 years ago, New Year's. My kids were absolutely enchanted. We went back 3 evenings on the road just to see the dancing fountains. And when you see Michael Jackson's Thriller and the fountains dancing away, it's unbelievable. They're now on the process that they're building Meydan 1. Now, when you see Meydan 1, that's just taking retail to a whole different level. But I think that's, Dubai is a different case with very, very deep pockets. You then sort of travel around. You see what Rick Caruso has been doing out in LA. So the Grove is his flagship asset. The Grove is Disneyland. If Walt Disney did retail, it's the Grove. It is fantastic experiences. And Rick Caruso there, and it's one of Howard's things, he creates places where people can fall in love. They can fall in love with brands. They can fall in love with each other. People regularly propose to each other in front of the fountains there. And then you sort of travel around. You look at what's been going on in Europe. Massive fans of what Unibail-Rodamco have done from a digital perspective. When you go to Quatre Temps in Paris and you see the unbelievable immersive digital experience that they have there, incredible. You go to Zurich, Frau Gerold's Garten in Zurich is just the most unbelievable casual dining, all-day experience. It's just cool. So we've been traveling around looking at these, and we are 5 years into our Axiom journey. We open in 2021. It will be 8 years from conceiving the scheme to actually open it, which is pretty short for a big development on our scale. But I think that we've had the time to travel, to look at this, to see where the UK's retail world, see where global retail trends are. And we've distilled everything into 4 key values. convenience, experience, excitement, and delight. And I think everything that's coming through on the panel, be it community, be it authenticity, be it events, be it flexibility, that's what we're designing into Axiom. So when we open in 2021, we will be relevant, and we are delivering what will hopefully be a very clear vision for #future of retail.
Okay. Now that's really interesting. The one thing on your stand, there's posted the Steve Dennis quote: "Physical retail isn't dead, boring retail is." Now, having said that, Howard did say the store is dead. What is going to happen to physical retail? How do we keep it alive? Communities alive? What in your opinion should be done? What can you do as businesses or are doing?
I think the most important thing is that we listen to the retailers. And what's come through loud and clear from the retailers are saying is they want us as landlords to deliver experiences. They're the experts at retailing. They're the experts in terms of, some unbelievable global brands. But our job as landlords, we're almost moving into the festival business, where every day we have to be putting on events. Every day we have to provide awesome, authentic experiences. And I think that by listening to the retailers, what they just want to see is experience. We had Eddie the Eagle on our stand this morning. And he's an astonishing individual with a great story. And Eddie, we announced today that Eddie, we announced our Axiom Adventure park this morning. So we're doing a 25-acre adventure park where families will come and play, and we'll leap into the water. We're talking to British Snow Sports and snowboard. And it's about just creating a really exciting day out where the family can come, and almost the retail's not secondary. The retail's an absolutely core component to what we're doing. But by wrapping it around with these amazing experiences, awesome catering, and I don't know if any of you come and had a gin in our Angelic Gin Bar today, but the guys that we were working with, Angelic Food Company, Bus Business, these guys are doing stuff all over the world, doing some really, really cool stuff. And I think going back to the start of this question, what do we as landlords have to do? I think if you're there with a sterile fashion park, and we know there's been a lot of people who are changing them around, I think this is where, with the retailers, where is the experience going to come from? I look at my children, my children, my wife, where do they want to go shopping on a Saturday? Do they want to go to a boring destination? Do they want to go somewhere as a family you can have a day out? Great for us, we've got Xscape next door. It is already established as the main leisure destination in Yorkshire and the North East. So we're there. So you'll be able to come to us. There'll be skiing, there'll be ski jumping, there'll be high wires, there'll be crystal term things. And I think that I think is the heart of everything here. It's about creating a community, convenience, experience, excitement, delight, building in as much flexibility as we can do to help our retail partners.
Okay, well, Howard, I wonder if I could just quickly ask you about that and maybe throw into the mix here. On top of that, a lot of people talking at the moment about department stores, scaling back, a lot of space going to come out from there. Have you got any ideas about what should be done with that space and just the wider physical retail story?
Well, no, none whatsoever. No, of course I have. But I've sort of said it, haven't I? I said there's this new world emerging, these brands that need a voice and need a space and a platform. And some of that will happen in department stores. I say famously, department stores are dying, stores are dead. But that doesn't mean John Lewis is dead. I know they had bad results. Selfridges is a phenomenon. The future is a changing picture. I'm dealing with trends. The future never gets here. It's a rolling picture. And actually, some of those businesses are incredibly strong. I'm off to Holland in an hour. To Buy & Cough is an incredibly strong business. It's not an issue. It's not like, what are we going to do with all these spaces? But some of them aren't so strong, and they will be replaced by new concepts. And my job, crudely, is to go, okay, in 30 years' time, let's jump ahead. What's going to be there? What could we imagine? Because clearly something is. We're pouring into our urban centres. We're an urban species, becoming more so. What are we going to put in towns and cities to accommodate us and to offer us new things? And that's the job. And it's an exciting one, because there's tons of stuff happening.
Well, what are we going to put in there, though?
It's like you weren't listening to me, really.
No, but
I've answered big ones.
yeah, big.
I'm going to say, I think it's really interesting, particularly talking about House of Fraser, and we had House of Fraser on our stand earlier on, and they were showing us the plans for what they're doing. It's awesome. Yeah. There is a role. I think that one of the problems that we've sort of seen in our retail industry, be it Debenhams, be it House of Fraser, be it a lot of the restaurant chains that were private equity backed is, we've had private equity that's been driving these things the wrong way. And I think that actually, for someone like House of Fraser, the handcuffs are now off. Mike Ashley is an awesome retailer. What they're doing is going to be incredible. If you look at the new flannels that's about to open on Oxford Street, that is absolutely dynamite. That is the future of retail. And I think that's what we're going to see in House of Fraser. I don't think we're going to see them disappear. I think we're just going to see complete reinvention. We're going to see proper capital invested in them. And it's going to become a brand showcase and an awesome retail experience. I think that's the future.
Okay.
Same for food as well.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's saying, oh, casual dining market has taken a bomb. We know that, but why is it taking a bomb? It's not that people aren't spending money on food. People are spending even more money on food and experience than they've ever done before. And if you look at the next generation, the millennials and the Gen Zs, actually their disposable income is all on food and experience. It's not on product anymore. So it's about getting the food right. It's about looking at what the product is that's exciting people. It's about the authenticity and the flexibility as a landlord that you can kind of respond and engage with your customers to that, rather than just saying, I've got 5 food units, I'm just going to put 5 food mass retailers in there. It's about how can you curate something that's a bit more exciting, because food is still very much alive, but it's about, unfortunately, not so much about starting with the commerciality of food. It's about starting with the authenticity and passion of food, and then seeing how you can commercialise that.
Okay, and obviously, Marie, you want to say that you're putting
I think the biggest problem that nationals have is they need to become like independents. So they're putting on the clothes of an independent now to try and be relevant. And I think that's the challenge for big brands like, you know, House of Fraser, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they reinvent themselves, because people love experience and independence because of the authentic story behind it. If you're buying a great cup of coffee from your local coffee guy, you know, how are Starbucks going to keep up with that? And it's about them trying to reinvent themselves in an authentic way. And it's difficult because big companies are driven by investor expectations, which are generally short-term. And I think that the future of retail and property is not, it's all about community. It's about identifying tangible things that need to be, that are contextually appropriate for every community. And it's a fascinating space to be in. I think there's, you know, a lot of the big property boys are so scared about retail. I think it's the biggest opportunity that I've ever had in my life, being in this market, because of the amount of redundant space that's coming available. It's like a blank canvas for me, because it's cheap. You can buy properties very cheaply because tenants are exiting at scale. So you can buy properties at 50 cents on the pound in high streets across the UK. If you have a concept like Big Box or like any of the other concepts around, you can tick the net income box, and you can tick the independent box, and you can tick all of those things that are relevant in today's retail world, and you can insert it into an empty Debenhams or an empty House of Fraser, and it's fundamentally well positioned in a high street in the top sort of 60 towns of the UK. There's real value there. So it's really about understanding what that is and about engaging with the people from the community. I think a big problem with developers is that they don't speak to people. So and it's the same in South Africa and the UK. As big developers come, they'll put a big concept there and they'll leave. When I go into development, I walk the streets. I speak to people. I walk through the streets of Woodstock and Cape Town and knock on people's doors and interact with them to understand what they need. Because you've got to emotionally connect to the consumer. It can't just be a cookie cutting approach, which has happened for too long. And it's how do big property funds and retailers identify with that and then take authentic decisions that deal with it. And I think that's, it's going to be a fascinating space at the moment.
And one of the idea, of course, is to bring in other type of use
Yes,
that can help create the community element, right? 'Cause in one of the projects that we were looking at in Berlin that we bought a land for, half of it is this essentially, we bought a schnapps factory. So half of it has the potential to be, turned into a retail park with food and beverage, leisure, education use, and various sort of ground floor use. And then on the back, we're looking to put in 500 units of new built co-living building. So the location itself isn't yet a very exciting place where people would go, but with the combination of a decent sized communities, within your sort of target demographics, and a very exciting destination, sort of combination of use, we are looking to make this a very interesting project that's just like it's on the outskirts of Berlin, but it's like can be traveled back to central Berlin within like 30 minutes. So that's what we think could easily see some synergies between sort of like the retail side and the living side.
Yes. Now we got about 10 minutes left, and it's at this point I'm going to open it up to the floor. Is there anyone who has some questions for our panel at all? Please. Oh, there we are. There's a question over here. And here we come with a microphone.
It's a fascinating presentation and Q&A session. I'm just going to play devil's advocate. It comes over a little bit elitist and a little bit metropolitan. It's all very well talk about New York and Berlin and some of those other places you mentioned.
We've got Doncaster.
You did just about. But most people, aren't dropping 40K at matches or know when to go to the Converse Hotel that one day of the year. Most people live in bog standard towns with bog standard jobs, earning bog standard money. What about them?
But I hear this a lot. It gets me annoyed, actually. No, because it's democratic. When you hang out in those street markets, there's not posh people hanging out there with big salaries. It's guys that just want really great stuff. This is ordinary people with families and screaming kids and all the rest of it. These are ordinary people, isn't it? I mean, yes, I showed you matches because it's brand new last week. There's an interesting story. But the truth is the revolution isn't coming from the big, rich brands. They're the ones that are actually worried about what to do next. The revolution is coming from the bottom up, from the artisans on the edge of town, from the freaky-looking guys and girls that have got ideas they want to bring to market. That's fantastically democratic, and we should embrace it and harness it, if I haven't said that 3 or 4 times already. I think it's a great news story. It's a people story, and it gets people employed. Imagine if instead of thinking, well, there's no future for me in this bedroom, I've got to go and work for the post office or an insurance company or nothing, you actually thought, no, do you know what? If me and my friends could get together and come up with a product that people want, we could come to market. We need the vehicle that helps us do that. I'm a passionate capitalist and Democrat. That's what I want.
Does everyone want to pick up on that?
Yeah, I think we are like the opposite of elitist, right? Like so at Old Oak, like the average income of our residents is around 33K. So that's, in London standard is median. Like it's not for the high-end people who just focus on, like luxurious experience. It's for the normal people, right? Like it's people who make 35K, like living in London. And I think the truth is with urbanization, there's just more and more people living in the cities that are increasingly lonely, and they want to be able to be connected with a community, whether it's in their living or in their working or in their shopping experience.
I also think the in terms of going back to these bog standard towns and bog standard peoples, I think that's where the opportunity is don't give them a bog standard day out. Give them an absolutely awesome day out and an awesome destination, and they will come. And I think when you go to, I'm going to Silverburn, Braehead in Scotland, they're in some pretty deprived areas. People that go there for lunch, they feel like they're on holiday. And I think that's what we've got to do is if we provide these experience centres so that we are taking people out of a bog standard day and bog standard life, and we can give them the everyday experience, everyday excitement, I think that's the future of retail.
I think it's a very valid question because I think that most of the carnage in the UK is in probably the last sort of 100 towns where there's a Debenhams, a House of Fraser, the usual suspects. And I think that's where the real issues are in the high street is this just the sea of space coming available. And for me, it's about contextual appropriateness and about creating bespoke solutions that are specific to that specific community. And if you go to Stoke-on-Trent or if you go to Glasgow, where we've just potentially done a deal, or if you go to wherever it might be, it's about understanding the DNA of that community and about creating solutions around that. So there's no cookie cutting. You've got to find ways to make it appropriate for that specific consumer, wherever that might be.
I think you've also seen kind of an answer to your question in the kind of decline in the casual dining market because people are speaking with their wallets. They are now spending in the food markets, the street food places. They're not spending in the casual dining market where it is cookie cutter, where value actually has driven, portion controls. Jamie Oliver, whatever you think about him. But I remember going back to Jamie Oliver's when it was open, and your portions were fine, and it was really lovely. And going 3 years later, and my pasta was like a starter. And I got a response back from kind of head customer service headquarters saying, we portion control every plate of pasta that you get. And that's not making me feel valued. That's making me feel like exactly I'm a cookie cutter. And so going back to your question about kind of the mass market have spoken with their wallets, and that's kind of another reason why we've seen a casual decline, because everyone's just being treated as a mass homogenistic thing rather than a person, and it's valued.
Okay, any other questions?
Don't think they dare now.
Oh, yes, no, there's one here.
So I think lots of the time the experiences we remember in retail are the experiences that are personalised just to us. You know, it's that pair of trainers that we can now design for ourselves, and it's our pair of trainers. How do you think technological and non-technological solutions combine to give us that personalised experience of retail?
I think if you come and have a look at our stand today, I think you start sort of seeing how technology can excite people and can provide unique experiences. If you come and have a look at our stand later on, we've got this the G-Smart G-Tainers, which are awesome, and we're able to play video images through. What we haven't done today is you can also, there's an iPad where with children you can play games where you can see it up on the screens. And I think that's where with technology, I'm going to say this is one of the things I think Unibail-Rodamco have absolutely nailed in some of their European centres. I think it's probably we're going to see it in the two Westfields in London, is they have a French business called Ad Memory that they work with. And what the digital content they produce that is really emotive, it's just awesome. And I think that's where, please come and have a look at our stand, come and see our glass wall system, come and just see how you can talk to your customers through it. Because I think this is where we talk about digital, and digital, we think about the great overlord of data, but digital can also have a fun side to it. And I think it's something that we can start talking to customers and excite people and provide, you know, a really unique experience.
Anyone quickly feeling passionate on this subject as well?
I think convenience. Digital is really great, not only for personalisation, but for convenience. So the food hall that we're developing in Canada at the moment, it's a food market. How convenient is a food market to do your daily shopping? And not that convenient. That's why we've got Tesco's, that's why we've got Asda, etc., etc. But actually, how can you use technology to make things more convenient? So, you know, can you do apps that actually you've got a convenience, and create that as a landlord, so that your 100 kiosks that you've got actually all work together as a community, so you get that convenience, but still have the authentic experience and shopping with individual retailers that have got kind of more of a kind of passionate product for you to sell. So I think it's a great enabler. Yeah. It's not the answer, but it's a great enabler for you to connect.
Okay, I think we've only got a minute or so left. I guess quickly one question then, just to throw out there. Walking around this, when people have said to me, what should I ask? What are we going to call shopping centres in the future, being as that's not all they're going to be? What should we call them?
You're looking at me.
Yeah.
Event
You must have written something about
No, I've spent 10 years working with developers and landlords, teaching them that they weren't actually landlords, they were actually retailers. And now I'm wrong, because it's actually they're event organisers now. More and more, you've got to be putting things together every day. Okay. Crudely. You asked for one word, there you go.
Yeah, that's good. Anyone else?
Well, I've got my word, and it's Axiom.
Axiom?
No, but I think there's a point here. We don't call it Axiom Shopping Centre, because it's not a shopping centre. It is the ultimate family day out. It's convenience, experience, excitement, delight, all those other things. It's just one word. It's our brand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Anyone else?
We are calling our mixed-use center monopoly of the people. It's not like a monopoly of the people. So it's not about a retail. It's not about the community. It's not about that. It's just people. You know?
I don't think it's a space for the name shopping centre anymore, because it's not relevant. It becomes the centre of towns, and it's a blended, multi-layered offering that's completely omni-channel, that speaks to authentic stories, and shopping centres are outdated. So even the term of it is outdated, and I don't think it can be replaced, because the future isn't old. It's something completely new and different, and so I don't think there's even a space for the word shopping centre anymore.
Okay.
2,000 years ago, we used to wander down to the Forum. I did anyway. 2,000 with a toga wrapped round, sort of thing. And we wandered down. Why? Do we need stuff? No, we wanted to hang out, meet a few people, have a cup of coffee, a glass of wine, meet with your mum, your kids, your family, your friends, your business partner, and then see what's new, try a few things, and wander back. And in 2,000 years' time, we'll be doing the same thing. We just need to get ourselves ready for that.
All right, well, on that note, that's a great way to end it. Thank you so much for that. Could you say thanks to our panel?